My name is Kimberly Bryant. I'm the founder and executive director of Black Girls Code. Black Girls Code is a nonprofit organization which focuses on introducing girls of color from ages 7 to 17 to computer programming and technology. And we're doing that by introducing a new generation of coders and be able to become the creators of technology and not just the consumers of it. I really founded Black Girls Code to be able to help girls like myself and like my daughter Kai find their voice in the technovation industry. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that by the year 2020, there will be 1.4 million STEM-related jobs. It's really our focus and our goal to make sure the generation of girls that are coming through our programs are able to be a part of that innovation economy. We really think of ourselves as the Girl Scouts of technology, and we're hoping to change the industry and the work that we're doing one girl at a time.
Hi, everybody. We're so excited to have you with us today for Find Your Tribe, Overcoming Isolation and Cultivating Sponsors. I'm Alisa Gumbs, the Executive Managing Editor of Black Enterprise, and we're here today with two women who have a wealth of experience on this topic, not just as Black women who have been navigating the tech space for themselves, but as women who are the stewards of development and diversity at their respective corporations. Please welcome Vanice Hayes, the Vice President of Development and Learning at Dell. Hi, Vanice.
Hi, how are you, Alisa?
Good, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for being here. And we also have Netta Jenkins, who is a nationally recognized diversity consultant and also the co-founder of Dipper, a tech platform that lets companies tackle diversity. Welcome, Netta.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to start for a minute with a bit of your own professional histories. If you ladies could share with us what your own tribes have meant to you over the years as you've moved through your career.
Sure. I'm happy to go first if that's okay. So again, as you said, my name is Vanice Hayes, and I would say over the past 21 years that I've been here at Dell Technologies, my tribe has meant the world to me. When I started 21 years ago, I had come from the education industry. I was a school teacher. I knew nothing about technology. I knew nothing about sales. And my first role at Dell was that of a sales trainer. And I was asked to teach our best sellers how to do their job. And so it was quite intimidating, to say the least. And I immediately started this process of identifying those people that could help me not only navigate the new world that I was in, but help me continue to flourish in this new world. And so having that small network of supporters around me throughout my process has meant the world to me. And I gotta say, you know, some of the folks that are part of my tribe are folks that I would not normally have thought that I would have be part of my executive board, but it's been fantastic.
Hi, everyone. Netta Jenkins. My goodness, view is definitely spot on. You know, my tribe has always been super important for me, especially from a young age. I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood where we experienced a tremendous amount of racism. And we were the only African-American family in that neighborhood. And I remember, you know, being in school and hearing racial slurs. And I even remember, you know, a woman spitting in my mother's face and saying, "Blacks don't belong in my neighborhood." And my mother kind of becoming my first member of my tribe and saying, "I didn't bring you in this world to cry about things. I brought you in this world to create change." And which is why I decided to embark on the activism work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I began at a very early age identifying, okay, who wants to kind of be in my tribe and on my side, from when I was in high school and taking a look at, okay, in terms of the teachers, you know, who's going to be supportive of these efforts. in me really bringing these things about racism to the forefront in a predominantly Caucasian school. And then all the way kind of trickling down to corporate America. When I was working for a pretty large internet technology company, and identifying quickly, I could connect with the CEO and I could make that person part of my tribe, right? And I think a lot of the times there is always this fear behind, can I bring an executive into my tribe? And it's definitely doable. So I'm really excited about this conversation.
So one of the things that often comes up when we speak about Black women in tech is this sense of isolation. There don't tend to be a lot of us in this space. Have you ladies experienced that personally over your careers, and how did you get through it?
I'm happy to take that one, Alisa. So being in the technology world, and even before that, so just as Netta had described, where she had grown up being kind of the only Black family in the neighborhood, I too had always been one of, two or three Black people, or even Black women as well. And so coming into this environment where I was asked to help develop our sales professionals, there just weren't a lot of folks that looked like me. And what I had decided based on kind of my background and having dealt with this for so long, I just decided that wasn't going to stop me. At the end of the day, I understood what are the goals of those folks that I am there to help. What are my goals? And I just removed the fact that I was the only Black woman and, made my space. I came into the room, I sat at the table. I didn't even let that be a factor in anything that I did or any decisions that I made. I never second guessed myself and thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here because of who I am. I always thought, I'm here for a reason, I'm here for a purpose, and just let that guide me and lead me. And so even though looking back on it, I was the only one, I never let it be something that held me back. Instead, I used it as an opportunity for me to stand out. I'm hard to miss because I'm the only one that looks like me. And so, I did everything I could to make sure that I represented myself, that I represented women, that I represented African Americans to the best of my ability, changing a lot of perceptions of people because they thought one thing about me when I came into the room, but by the time I left, all of those thoughts were then gone, and people started to see me for the value that I brought in the role that I was doing.
It sounds like being purpose-driven, really helped you overcome that. But, I know that's hard work, being the only one all the time, changing minds. I mean, so, the women out there, they want to know what you felt on the inside and how you dealt with it when you were sort of struggling with that. Because, it's hard sometimes at the end of a long day after you've been doing all that work. So what helped you get through it so you could go out and put on that brave face?
Do you want me to answer that, or do you want Netta?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Oh, so for me, it goes back to, at the end of the day, what am I here for? I'm here to do a job. And I wasn't going to let anybody or any perception stop me from doing that and from being my absolute best. When I think back to my supporters and my tribe, they had an expectation of me. I had white men and still do as part of my tribe, right? These are people that you would never think would be there to support me, but they were, right? They put me out in these situations because they knew that I could do it, and I know that I can do it. And so I just, any feelings of fear, you just have to immediately remove those, right? Because fear is nothing but a stopper, and it blocks you from all the things that you can potentially do. So I just saw it as every day, like I'm here to come and do a job, just like everyone else. I don't think white men wake up in the morning thinking about, their ethnicity or their gender. They just go in and do their job. So I, kind of took that same approach. And when I did see other African American women coming in, I made sure to reach out to them and let them know, hey, we are all here, same level, same opportunities and potential. Let's go in and do our best. And so making sure that anyone else who came after me also felt supported in this environment. That's what I did.
Netta?
Yeah, I love what Vanice said. I think a part of it too is being very strategic in the beginning, being very strategic. You know, a lot of the times when we join organizations, we're always thinking about, okay, how can I please this organization? But what can that organization do for you? How is that organization going to benefit you? The types of people in the organization. And that's how come, you know, when I had first kind of joined and got into corporate America, I kind of created my own plan and I said, okay, I know that I definitely want to connect with executives. I want to build that relationship. I want them to understand and see the type of work that I bring to the table, because I think you have a lot of leverage there. Once you're able to show someone, hey, this is what I bring to the table, right? And not just the lip service, this is what I bring to the table. Now there's added value. People believe in you and they want to help you and they want to see you kind of move in the right direction in that path. And that's exactly kind of the situation that I was in and that I had formed for myself. And then I think the other piece is there are some times and moments where you may not have a seat at the table and you have to create your own table and you have to create your own seat. And I did that many times. And a lot of times what I would do is I would look outside of the box and say, okay, well, I don't see diversity here. I don't see other women of color here. I don't have to be in a recruiting position to start to look out and see who else is in my network and can be a part of my tribe as well. And so I also brought a lot of people into the organization with me. And I also started to equip them with the tools and introduce them to executives and leaders that I had built relationships with to leverage that out. And it was definitely very, very successful. I think the other side of it too is, you know, I met my business partner. We were both executives at this internet technology organization. And we quickly became friends because we were both like, oh, hold on, you're a Black woman, I'm a Black woman, right? And then, but we also started to talk about mother life and kids and really forming a relationship. And then we thought, hey, how can the company benefit us? What can we kind of form together where we have the support? And that's how we kind of came up with Dipper. And we gained a lot of support from the organization. And still to this day, there are a lot of employees and executives and leaders that still support us in this journey.
I'm so glad you mentioned being strategic about it. You both sort of in your, intros as to how your tribe developed mentioned that, this was an intentional thing for you both in terms of building your tribe. So if we're going to think about how we strategically build a tribe, who do we need in our tribe? What types of people or what types of knowledge or what values are we looking for to surround ourselves with?
Definitely. I think the first step is thinking about, okay, what am I lacking? What do I need to understand? So maybe it's finance, right? I've never been too strong in kind of the financial area, but I know in order to be a COO or CEO, you have to have financial fluency, right? That's one of the biggest missing gaps. And so you want to gain that knowledge. So I started to connect with our CFO, and have a lot of conversations. I started to connect with financial analysts to understand, okay, what type of work do you do? Where am I lacking here? And how can they help me? And I think in that process, I was able to kind of build that relationship, a very strong relationship as well. And then I think the next step would be to think about those people you're kind of fearful of talking to, right? A lot of the times, I go back to a lot of the times, if you, let's say you're an associate level person or even a manager, you may be thinking, oh, I don't need to talk to executives. Like what can, what type of relationship can really form? Or are they really interested in speaking with me? They must be too busy. And I think we have to really break that kind of like oppressive mindset and say, oh no, I'm going to reach that level soon. I'm going to get there. And so I need to surround myself around with those types of people as well. And that's a main part of it. So that's C-suite, get to know them, collaborate, share some projects that you're working on. You just never know what type of relationship you can build off of that, and especially long-term. And so when I think of that, I even think of my manager and how we created a very strong bond. And she was a white woman, right? And so she was the first person actually to say, Netta, you need to start blogging on the side, create your own website. Like, when does it ever really happen, right? But again, it speaks to relationships. She said, create your own website. And then the CEO, she introduced me to, and so I could start to build that relationship. And she said, let's invest a little bit more in Netta. She wants to do a TEDx talk. She wants to speak externally. And so they started investing and put money to, aside to do that. And so that was all based on that relationship, and the other piece, there are people that one may come across that may be jealous, and sometimes it can even be your manager when you're on this trail. And so I think a lot of the times, even with that, you want to be strategic and, okay, I want to position this person to be able to help me, but how can I support them? So even with my own manager, I would say, okay, let's talk about some of the things you want to do as well. And we would literally sit in her office, we would exchange ideas. So it was no longer, oh, you're my manager and I'm the employee. It's, we're friends, we're looking out for each other, and let's win.
And I would definitely add to what Netta said. Those are all perfect. The one additional thing I would add as well is to be strategic and find someone who is a truth teller. Don't surround yourself with fans.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people that will tell you, and again, not those that are in competition or that are jealous, those who are truly for you, but that will tell you when a decision you made probably wasn't the best one. Here's something to do instead. But tell you those things that you need to hear, not that you want to hear. That one can be tricky for some folks because I know we all like to, just have cheerleaders and fans around us. But you can even have fans that are going to be honest and let you know these are some things that you might be able to do to make you even better. But I really love, those things that you hit on, Netta, as far as not being afraid if you are a frontline manager or even a recent grad. We have a large population within our company of recent graduates, and they come in, they'll start off as an intern in the summer, and some of them, they're fearful to block time with me. And every time I talk to them, I learn just as much from our recent grads and our interns that they learn from me. So I think it's definitely important to break down, those barriers that people build up for themselves, and just, get on a calendar, take some time. And once you're there, as Netta said, share projects you're working on, ask for their perspective or advice on things, and really start to build those relationships with all levels of the organization.
So Vanice, in your role as the Vice President of Learning and Development, you're responsible for, building people's capabilities, driving their performance, and helping them manage their career growth. When we talk about finding your tribe, I think a lot of us look at it as, who are the people that I'm going to use to help me get through the day, like with my sanity intact? We think about our well-being and we think about our job satisfaction, but having the right tribe really does impact your career advancement. So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. I would say where it has really helped me in my career advancement and where it helps others is those folks that are in your tribe are your advocates. They are the ones sponsoring you and speaking up for you when you're not in the room. When I think back on my career, there are several times that I know that it was my leader or it was my advocate or my sponsor who fought for me to help get me where I was. And so I think that's really, really critical when people are thinking about their careers, to pick those people that are in those positions or in those conversations that you want to be in. They don't always have to be those people that are closest to you or on your same team. If you want to be in a different organization or in a different role, start building relationships with influencers that are in those organizations, and then let them help to advocate for you. Now, of course, it's going to require, as Netta had mentioned before, that you have to make yourself be worthy of the sponsors, so you do have to do the work, but make it easy for them and make it hard for people to say no to you when your advocate or your sponsor is in the room speaking on your behalf.
There's a lot of head nodding, Netta.
Oh yeah, no. She just spoke a whole word. Absolutely. Definitely. I think you definitely need to, again, it goes back to the strategy piece, right? Really literally writing down, okay, here's what I want to do. Here are the types of people that I want to connect with. Here's the reason why, here's how I want to even support them in their journey, because it's, people want to feel like it's reciprocated. And they're not being used, so how can you really add value for them? What types of things and projects, like Vanice was saying, can one work on as well? So there are so many different things, I think, that can definitely be done to form those relationships, because I think at the cusp of what we're talking about, it's really about strong, forming those bonds and those relationships, to be able to have that type of champion that's going to speak about you when you're not in the room.
So staying with the strategy of how we actually build this tribe, Netta, you mentioned your co-founder at Dipper. The two of you worked together at a previous company. You were co-workers, and you developed what, we like to call that work-wife kind of relationship. But you went a step beyond that in terms of formalizing things. I know you wanted to extend the safe space you had created between the two of you, and you guys started Black Girls Lunch. So
sure did.
Yeah, I mean, tell us about that as a way to formalize, tribe building.
Yeah, I think, in a lot of the corporate workspaces, there's definitely a lack of diversity, right? And so when you do see another woman of color, it's almost like the color purple. So it's like, you and me will never part. It was exactly that. And for she and I, we were just like, okay, we need to connect with other Black women within the organization. And there were a few. And so we would have our Black Girls Lunch once or twice a month. And it was a good time just to kind of unwind. We would actually get out of the building, go to a restaurant, and just laugh about the craziest things, or even things that we had experienced. And it's like, girl, can you believe this happened to me, right? So it was really nice, I think, for sanity purposes, because there's a lot, of course, that goes on as being the only or one of the few. And I think, when you have other Black women or men that you can just simply vent to, and they get it, and you can laugh it off at the end of the day and go home and start over again, is so critical.
And Vanice, you mentioned that, of course, you've been at Dell for 21 years. So can you share what you've learned over that time about building relationships across an organization?
Oh goodness, I could go on for hours and hours on that piece, but building the relationships are critical. Not only building relationships, but building those, as Netta just said, that not only help you, but that help others. It's funny, I tell people all the time when they come into this company, be careful, who you are rude to, because that person will likely be your boss at some point in the very near future. And it's funny because I see it happen over and over again. And on the flip side, even if you have a leader that's driving you crazy and you feel like you want to give up and leave the company, don't, because guess what? They're going to probably change roles soon. And again, I've seen that. I've even experienced it myself, where there was a point in my career about 15 years ago where I just thought, I was having a situation, it was driving me crazy. And I had a member of my tribe remind me of what I always tell others, which is just, hang in there. Definitely don't give up or give in too soon. And I'm thankful that I didn't, or else, who knows where I'd be at this point. But definitely would say over all these years, building relationships, building them at different levels, always, giving people your absolute best, because those are the folks that down the road, they'll remember that. People remember how you make them feel. And it's important from a relationship standpoint that you're always thinking about that first, not only for your career, but just for, the performance of whatever you're doing in your current role. I also love, I just want to speak on what Netta had just said, staying connected to people that maybe they're not in your normal day-to-day, but I did the same. We'd have Sunday brunches, or I'd have lunches with other African-American women, just so that we could kind of, stay connected. But that also helped from a networking standpoint, because as those circles grew or as they shrank, there were always new people kind of coming in and out of that circle. And that helped again with building these relationships across the business and across different organizations that I never would have built otherwise. So those are a few things that I think are really, really important, but relationships, I just can't speak any more on that one.
Yeah. And I like what Vanice just said. I think when you do have that strong network of people or champions, and let's say you are having a tough day or you're experiencing something because someone, maybe a manager isn't being fair to you, you're able to go back to whoever that tribe is and say, okay, how do I work through this situation? Right? Have you had this experience? And even sometimes if you have someone that is in a position of power in your tribe, that person can say, okay, well, we're not going to settle for this. I'm going to have to speak to this person, or we're going to have to take these steps because this can't, um, this is going to affect your performance or your productivity. And you've been a valuable, team member. So I think there are different components there.
So I want to round out the discussion talking a bit about the role of the corporation in all of this, because, of course, we are all responsible for our own careers, and you both have been, very proactive individually about building your tribes. But there are things that, we should be looking for from our companies as well. Vanice, what are the things that most corporations have in place that professionals should really be taking advantage of when it comes to both building their tribes and increasing their relationship building capacity?
Yep. So I'm fortunate at Dell Technologies, we actually do have what we call our people philosophy, and it is the company's commitment to all of our team members to help them achieve their full potential. And so there are a few things that our company is committed to, and I think it's critical, no matter what company you're in, to kind of understand what are those key things. At Dell, those commitments are to enabling the achievement of our team members, so making sure that they have the tools, the opportunity to build the skills and to perform in order to achieve and grow their careers. The other is around balance, so making sure that we think about our team members not only as workers, but they're people as well, right? So how do we make sure there's a good balance from a life and a work standpoint, which these days it's really, really critical. And then there's a commitment to connection and making sure that our people are able to build those key relationships. We've got a really, really strong employee resource group network where no matter what your interest is, you've got an opportunity to connect with others that are similar to you. And so when I think about anyone who is joining us today and kind of thinking about it, understand what your company's culture is and use that to your advantage, and drive some accountability, right? That's one of those things that every leader within our organization knows what that commitment is, or what those commitments are to our team members, and we're held accountable to live up to those things. So don't be afraid, don't isolate yourself, don't count yourself out. If you see an opening for a position and you're the least a bit qualified, go for that. Don't count yourself out. But that's what I would say is people are thinking about their companies and their cultures. Those are the things that are going to really, really help them.
Netta, I know accountability is a huge issue for you. And in addition to Dipper, which for people who aren't familiar with Dipper, Dipper lets professionals rate and review their companies, and it also helps companies improve their diversity. But even before you co-founded Dipper, you had many years of experience as a diversity executive at tech corporations. How can professionals assess their companies or their potential employers to say, where might I find a welcoming environment? Where might I be able to find a sense of community?
Yeah, I think like what Vanice was saying, definitely tapping into those employee resource groups for sure, figuring out, okay, who's a part of them, and then developing and nurturing those relationships for sure is really critical. I also think, for corporations, there's definitely an issue in terms of accountability. And so I tell a lot of organizations, leaders of organizations, you have to tie DEI to key performance indicators, right? We measure everything in corporations. Everything matters, but why doesn't it matter when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion? And so that's something I encourage anyone that is working in corporate America to fight for and advocate for. Why aren't we measuring this and understanding this a lot better? And to your point, yes, that's one of the reasons why, my partner and I said, hey, we have to launch Dipper. This is finally an opportunity to really give professionals of color a safe space to share what is really happening within their organizations. The experience for Black and Brown people is very, very different than our white counterparts, unfortunately. And so being able to have a safe space to say, here's what's really happening, here's what I'd like to see happen in terms of accountability and action and solution is key.
Okay, so we have a couple of quick questions from our audience that I'm going to throw out, and either one of you can answer. The first is, what if I'm the only Black woman on my team or in my department or even my company? How do I build a tribe then?
I think even being the only, because I've been the only many times, again, look for those people. Well, first, take a step back and think about, where do you want to be in your career? Can you see yourself being a COO or a CEO, or do you want to be an executive? Do you want to be a manager if you aren't a manager? So what level do you want to be on? Then the next step is to think about, who are those people that are in those positions that I would love to be in a position like that as well, right? And so then you connect with those people and you start to talk to them, get some information on, how did you get there? What are some steps that I need to be taking? And I think naturally what's going to happen as you continue to talk to that person is that relationship will continue to grow and develop. And that'll definitely propel you and put you in the right direction.
I completely agree. And I would add to that one, just figuring out what are those skills or experiences that I can gain that no one can take away from me at the end of the day, right? So even if you're not yet where you want to be, what can you do along the way that you can gain those things that are going to help carry you, make you even more marketable once the time does come and you are ready for that next move.
And our last question is completely relevant to the world we live in now. Mm-hmm. How do you build those authentic connections when everything is virtual?
Oh goodness. So this is one I'm happy to answer. So at our company, we've actually been on kind of a virtual or remote journey for quite some time. We've had a lot of our workforce that have been virtual. We're a global organization. So I feel like we've already begun that process or journey of, how do you stay connected in a virtual world where people may feel isolated? Maybe it's because they're living far, far away from the rest of their coworkers. Now we're all living in our own rooms, if you will. So I say it's just like it was, beforehand. Make sure you're taking that extra time, reaching out, setting up those Zoom happy hours with friends, still putting those one-on-ones on people's calendars. It's even easier now, actually, because you don't have to worry with an executive that's running from one meeting to the next, or an executive who's, for me, I used to have to be gone for a week to be at a conference. Well, now, I'm here. And so it's really easy for people to get that time with me, build that connection. There's a lot, we never were on video as much as we are now, but it's neat that you're still able to build that connection with people and kind of see them eye to eye, even though it's over video. So I would say, again, use it as an opportunity versus a detractor or something that would stop you from continuing to build those relationships.
Yeah, and just to add to that quickly, what I love about it is you actually get to show up authentically. The other day I had my bonnet on, right? And I was speaking to someone and he was like, oh, Netta, wow, nice cap. I'm like, wait, correction, bonnet. So, and then the same thing, so he started to talk to me about how the station that he was working on was built by his daughter, so you get to really see into one's life a lot more. And that's what I love about it. And I think authentic relationships actually grow a little bit even more so virtually. I'd love to do the research behind it, but it's what I'm learning about people that I've worked with in the past and even now is very different from when it was when I was in the office.
Yeah. Ladies, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Netta and Vanice, for sharing your experience with us and letting us know, how we can all go out there and build tribes that really work for us. Thank you.
Thank
Happy to
you.
be here.
Thank you, Vanice, Netta, and Alisa, for helping us all find new members of our tribe today and feel the power of connecting at a time when we need it most. We hope you've had a great day one of the Women of Power Tech Summit. There's so much more in store for you tomorrow, including more prizes and more chances to speak to recruiters and coaches and to make new connections. You won't want to miss powerful conversations among Black women tech company founders, experts in cybersecurity and negotiation, and we'll kick off the day with two unapologetically ambitious Black women who both reached tech C-suite. They can't wait to share how they did it, so you can too. The help desk opens at 10:30 Eastern tomorrow morning, and the showcase opens at 11. Stay safe and be well until we see you tomorrow.